the budget reaffirms this government's commitment to infrastructure. There's no question about that. What we would have ideally liked to have seen is more information about Phase 2, more information about the infrastructure bank, things that will help our members and municipalities and all levels of government probably make more informed business decisions with their infrastructure programs going forward. As far as we're concerned, the direction is right, but we could certainly, been hoping for perhaps a clear roadmap to that destination. It's great that they've given themselves a deadline for that at the end of the year. The infrastructure bank is certainly a worthwhile idea. It'll hopefully attract investment that will allow infrastructure to move forward that might not have otherwise have happened. But the infrastructure bank is largely going to be targeted to fairly significant projects where the investors are going to see some form of return on investment. It's one tool in a toolbox, and it doesn't lend itself to all forms of infrastructure. But it can be potentially can be a very valuable tool in helping us address infrastructure. There was very little surprise in this budget. Going back to the previous budget, they talked about $20 billion for transit, $20 billion for green infrastructure, $20 billion for community infrastructure. And we don't have a problem with that. And many of our members do things like community housing and those types of projects. But I think there needs to be some priority to those projects that actually generate revenue, generate economic activity, because that's what gives you the capacity to be able to fund these types of projects. You know, using the analogy of a homeowner, if I can do all sorts of things in my home to increase my enjoyment, the comfort, and they still add value to the home, they're still important to do, but you don't do those things until you're sure that your roof isn't leaking and your foundation's not crumbling. Once the infrastructure program starts rolling, I think it's going to be a great opportunity, not just for our industry, but it's going to be a great opportunity for Canadians. And we're going to be looking for the right type of people. And STEM is one of those skills that is very important to, not just from the engineering and construction standpoint, but we're becoming more and more of a scientifically dependent society. And not even just the direct skills, but scientific literacy is also going to be important in the future. The National Trade Corridor Fund is, along with the Infrastructure Bank, one of the initiatives from the fall financial statement that we're quite glad to see enshrined in this budget. This is precisely the kind of infrastructure that grows the economy, creates more jobs, creates more wealth, helps make us competitive. This is the kind of infrastructure, in fact, that actually creates the ability to fund softer community infrastructure like civic centers, hockey rinks, and social housing, all very important, but this gives us the means to do that. It's particularly critical now in the United States, where NAFTA is up for renegotiation. We're seeing a regime that's very interested in deregulation. We need every opportunity to be competitive. And this is the kind of infrastructure that speaks directly to our competitiveness as both with the United States and around the world in terms of an economic jurisdiction. So this is very welcome news. Two items. One is still a lot of vagueness around the carbon tax. Without getting into the philosophical debate of pro or against, I think we really need the ability collectively as a country to make informed business decisions. So the sooner we have clarity around the intent of the carbon tax and how it's actually going to work, I think the more successful it has, the better chance it has of being successful. The other thing that's quite interesting is the building code. Apparently there is some provision to create new codes for retrofitting buildings and creating new buildings to reduce energy consumption, and that certainly has merit, and there's probably a superior solution than LEED certification in some of these other vehicles.